And this is, can you remember her name from last week? That's right, it was Hannah. Now at the beginning of our story last week, Hannah was very sad. And I wonder if anyone can remember why she was sad. It was because she couldn't have a baby. Now, in the end, she knelt down and prayed to God in the temple, and she asked him to give her a son. And she promised that if he did, she'd give him back to him. And again, there was somebody else in our story last week that we met. His name was Eli. Whoops. He was an old man, and he was in charge of the temple. And Hannah, when she did have a son, later on when she did have a son and called him Samuel, she took him back to Eli at the temple. Now, at this week, Samuel's grown up a bit. There we are, big strapping lad he is, a big boy. So he's grown up and he's living now with Eli at the temple. His mum Hannah comes to visit him every year, and you remember she's had lots of other children as well. So now this story takes place at night time. So they're both in bed. Let's put them into their beds. Eli is in one room and Samuel in the other. And here we start our story. Samuel! Somebody called one night. Samuel, I want to talk to you. Samuel sat up in bed and he rubbed his sleepy eyes. And he thought, I wonder what Eli wants. So he got out of bed. And he went into Eli's room, knock knock. And he said to Eli, what do you want to talk to me about now? Eli said, I didn't call you, go back to bed. So Samuel went back and lay in his bed. Samuel, God called again. Who's that? Is that Eli again? He said. He went back in. Eli said, no, go back to bed, I'm not calling you at all. But then he suddenly thought maybe it was God that was calling him. And Eli said to Samuel, this time, if you hear someone calling you, it might be God. So say to him, speak, God, and I'm listening to you. So Samuel went back and he laid in his bed again. And sure enough, the voice came again. So, Samuel, Samuel. So he got up this time. And he said, speak, God, for I'm listening. And Samuel stayed there and he listened to God, and his eyes opened with wonder. And from that moment in his life on, until he was an old man, Samuel and God talked together. God gave him messages to pass on to the people. And just like the first time, God's message never failed him to leave his eyes wide open. And his mouth, well, look at him. Okay. So Samuel, first of all, he thought it was Eli calling him. Twice he went to Eli, and in the end, Eli realised it was God that was calling him. So that's today's story, the story of Samuel. We're going to say a prayer now to finish with, and if you'd like to make it your prayer and join in, then you can join in at the end saying Amen. Dear God, thank you that you spoke to Samuel and he listened and he heard you. Help us to hear what you're saying to us as well. Amen. Okay, so that's today's story, and I'll see you next week for another one. Bye then. Bye.